Hello, Dolphins fans! I'm Dustin Davis, and welcome to the channel. Here you'll find everything you need to know about the Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins find themselves navigating a complex web of financial obligations and performance expectations that could reshape the franchise's trajectory. After years of aggressive moves to build a contender, the organization faces mounting pressure as contract structures, player relationships, and coaching decisions converge into a series of difficult choices. What began as calculated investments in talent acquisition has evolved into a delicate balancing act between financial flexibility and competitive aspirations. The franchise's commitment to key personnel, while initially seen as prudent roster management, now presents challenges that extend well beyond the current season. Guaranteed contracts, performance expectations, and strategic pivots creates a landscape where every decision carries amplified consequences for the franchise's immediate future and long-term sustainability. Let's check out everything that's happening in the last few hours in Miami. First of all, let me take a moment to ask for your help. If you enjoy our videos, give us a like. It's a great way to keep the content going. Thanks for the support. Contract fallout takes center stage, unpacking how a QB's guarantee structure could constrain Miami's cap in roster. Miami's extension for Tua Tagovailoa in 2024 looked like a proactive move to preserve a rising star quarterback, but the details baked into the deal have created a series of recurring payroll cliffs that force annual strategic trade-offs. What seemed prudent in a market chasing quarterbacks has become a governance problem. Rolling guarantees, timed guarantees, and the sequencing of fully guaranteed figures now tie the Dolphins' hands across multiple off-seasons. That dynamic changes how Miami can operate in free agency, the draft, and trade negotiations, and it could keep salary leverage on the team's books long after they've decided whether Tua is their long-term answer. When Miami closed its 2024 agreement with Tagovailoa, it was part of a broader QB spending wave that offseason. With quarterback market values climbing fast, franchises prioritize getting deals done before a single other signature pushed the ceiling higher. The Dolphins committed to Tua with a 4-year, $212 million pact. Headline numbers meant to lock in stability, but the substance of the contract tells a more complicated story. At signing, Tagovailoa's guarantees were modest for a franchise cornerstone. Only $93.17 million of the deal was fully guaranteed at the time the ink dried, covering his 2024 and 2025 compensation. For a team-caliber quarterback, that level of immediate security is on the stingier end of the modern range. The agreement's design, however, included a rolling guarantee mechanism that changes the calculus each offseason. In March 2025, an additional $54 million of the contract automatically became fully guaranteed for the 2026 season. That rolling structure essentially forces the contract to function like a 2-year commitment that renews its financial consequences each spring. As of September 2025, the practical implication is clear. Miami is committed to roughly $106 million spanning the 2025 and 2026 seasons combined. Looking ahead, the club faces another decision point in March 2026, but the incremental cost then is comparatively small. Only $3 million of Tagovailoa's 2027 compensation becomes fully guaranteed at that later threshold. In isolation, that number is minimal. Viewed together with the earlier guarantees, it highlights how the contract becomes heavier in the near term and lighter later. Miami's only clean exit from the deal would be through a trade. If the Dolphins elect to move Tua, they must persuade another franchise to absorb a significant chunk of 2026 cash, roughly $55 million, for a player Miami may no longer see as part of its future. That outcome requires a buyer willing to shoulder immediate guaranteed money for an asset the Dolphins are trying to shed, which is an uphill sell. A release doesn't erase the cost either. Cutting Tagovailoa would still leave Miami on the hook for about $55 million in 2026 pay, less whatever compensation another team might offer him. That blunt arithmetic constrains the franchise's practical options. Trade if a buyer emerges, otherwise retain and pay. There is a recent precedent that offers parallels but not a perfect fit. When Denver acquired Russell Wilson and extended him, the Broncos structured guarantees that made his 2022 to 2024 salaries fully guaranteed, with his 2025 pay poised to become guaranteed in March 2024. To stop that guarantee from vesting, Denver released Wilson in March 2024, accepting the cost of his 2024 salary, roughly $39 million, while avoiding the larger 2025 figure. Because Denver acted before the later guarantee triggered, they avoided a further long-term commitment. Miami had a similar window early in the 2025 offseason in which releasing Tagovailoa before a guaranteed season started could have constrained future obligations. The Dolphins did not exercise that option, and as a result, they now carry liabilities that the Broncos avoided. A closer analog may be Kirk Cousins' situation. When Atlanta signed him, the Falcons guaranteed 2 years of his 4-year deal. Then, after drafting Michael Penix and transitioning to the younger quarterback during 2024, Atlanta found itself stuck with Kirk Cousins' guaranteed pay. With $27.5 million in base salary and a $10 million guaranteed bonus slated for 2026, no trade partner stepped up in the 2025 offseason, leaving Kirk Cousins effectively the league's most costly backup. Atlanta concluded releasing him wasn't materially beneficial since the contract guarantees meant they were paying him regardless. Tagovailoa's immediate guaranteed exposure, roughly $55 million, exceeds Kirk Cousins' guaranteed future figures by nearly $20 million. And because Miami only increases Tua's guaranteed total by a modest $3 million if they keep him into the 2026 season, the financial incentive to cut ties next year will likely be weak. That means even if Miami prefers a different starter in 2026, Tagovailoa could remain on the roster simply because releasing or trading him produces no meaningful salary relief, much like Kirk Cousins' current status in Atlanta.
The financial complexities surrounding Tagovailoa aren't the only roster challenges Miami faces. Trade buzz heats up around the receiving corps. A big move could instantly alter targets and front office priorities. When the franchise mortgaged draft capital and structure to acquire Tyreek Hill, the objective was clear: add a transcendent playmaker who redefined the offense. Early results validated that vision, but football is a results business, and expectations that once felt inevitable can quickly become sources of tension when production, fit, and commentary shift. As Hill's role and on-field explosiveness have varied, public remarks and roster calculus have combined to produce speculation about whether the Dolphins should cut ties. Outside voices, including idea pieces and trade proposals, have begun to test franchise appetite for moving on from a high-priced, high-profile veteran. The trade for Tyreek Hill was supposed to deliver the NFL's most dangerous vertical threat to Miami. For stretches in Miami, Hill lived up to that standard, notably in 2023 when he posted 1,799 receiving yards and 13 touchdowns, a season that left few peers at his level. But over the subsequent 2 years, the frequency of his game-breaking long plays declined. He recently registered his first 30-plus yard reception in a game after more than a year without one. For a roster built on overwhelming speed, that decline is consequential. Beyond production, Hill's public comments have fed speculation about his long-term status in Miami. Some analysts have floated trades as a reasonable path if the team's performance or internal dynamics make his presence untenable. One such proposal, from Christopher Knox at Bleacher Report, recommended seeing whether the Pittsburgh Steelers might be a viable trade destination, an idea Knox framed around pick compensation comparable to prior market activity. Knox invoked precedent when sketching the calculus. Phillips isn't the only player the Dolphins should look to move if the losses mount. Wide receiver Tyreek Hill would be a logical trade chip for a couple of reasons. The conditional third-round pick the Las Vegas Raiders received for Devonta Adams last season is probably the starting point, he wrote. Despite those published ideas, reporting has not confirmed an active market for Hill. Multiple outlets have indicated Miami has not publicly fielded trade inquiries for its star wideout. ESPN's Adam Schefter noted that, as of a recent update, the Dolphins had not received offers, though he allowed that the situation could evolve quickly if Miami's results deteriorate in the near term. Schefter's report also reiterated the basic contract picture. Hill is in the second year of a restructured 3-year, $90 million deal. The Dolphins already exercised a $15.85 million option bonus for the season, leaving Hill with a $10 million base salary and an additional $1.8 million available in per-game incentives. That structure sets the baseline for any trade conversation. Money isn't the only variable. Hill's public suggestion that he might be out and ready to move, coupled with occasional struggles against the league's top defenses and off-field noise, increases the friction in Miami. For a team that built an identity around speed and space, the combination of inconsistent elite production and a star's uncertainty about future commitment creates both cultural and tactical reasons to consider a change. Factor in off-field matters and fits versus elite opponents, and the argument for severing ties gains texture. Those considerations matter to management beyond contract math. They touch chemistry, coaching alignment, and long-term roster planning. Hill's comments to Omar Kelly of the Miami Herald crystallized the issue publicly. He said, "I don't even know, bruh. This is my first time I haven't been in the playoffs, man. So I mean, for me, I've just got to do what's best for me and my family. If that's here or wherever the case may be, I'm about to open that door for myself. Yeah, I'm opening the door. I'm out, bruh. So it was great playing here, but at the end of the day, I've got to do what's best for my career and what's best because I'm too much of a competitor to be just out there." Those remarks make an already difficult roster decision more public and more urgent. Whether Miami pursues a trade, waits for market interest, or attempts to repair the relationship internally will be a defining storyline for the organization in the coming weeks and months.
The roster uncertainty surrounding key players like Tua Tagovailoa and Hill connects directly to questions about Miami's coaching leadership. Coaching whispers escalate as teams eye a young offensive architect who could bring structure and urgency to the sideline. The early currents of the 2025 season have cast a long shadow over Miami's sideline, and murmurs about Mike McDaniel's job security are growing louder. After a frantic close to the 2024 campaign that saw the Dolphins slip in December, an 0-3 start to the new season would likely accelerate calls for dramatic action from ownership and the front office. In such a high expectation environment, a coach's margin for error can vanish quickly. If the franchise opts for a course correction, Joe Brady, young, analytically minded, and offensively innovative, is positioned to emerge as a top candidate to assume command in 2026. Mike McDaniel arrived in Miami in 2022 with a reputation for inventive schemes, an energetic presence, and an ability to coax improved play from his quarterback. Yet, in today's NFL evaluations, where postseason advancement is the ultimate metric, regular season flash can ring hollow without playoff victories. Under McDaniel, the Dolphins have produced an explosive unit but still lack a postseason win on his watch. If Miami begins 2025 with 3 straight losses, particularly while deploying a roster that features a healthy Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle, patience from ownership and the fan base could evaporate quickly. With talent assembled and expectations set high, a mid-season dismissal or an end-of-year coaching change would not be unexpected. Joe Brady's name has circulated in elite coaching conversations for several seasons. At 36, he remains one of the NFL's more intriguing offensive minds. After a prominent college run, highlighted by his role in crafting LSU's historic 2019 offense and helping Joe Burrow ascend to #1 overall pick and Heisman winner, Brady's initial NFL tenure had bumps, including an abrupt end in Carolina. But he revived his reputation in Buffalo, where in 2024, he moved from interim to full-time offensive coordinator in Buffalo. His bounce back in the professional ranks has reintroduced Brady to the head coaching market as a polished, modern offensive architect with both schematic creativity and player development credentials. The Dolphins' identity centers on speed, spacing, and quick decision-making, principles that dovetail neatly with Brady's offensive toolkit. His schemes often emphasize tempo, efficient intermediate passing, and creating advantageous matchups in open field space. That schematic overlap suggests immediate synergy with perimeter weapons like Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and the dynamic backfield presence of Devon Achane. If Miami's leadership seeks continuity in offensive philosophy, but wants a coach who blends creativity with a firmer structural approach, Brady represents a balanced candidate. Tua Tagovailoa's status is pivotal to any coaching decision. A disappointing or injury-marked 2025 would push Miami to explore alternative quarterback options in 2026. Brady's experience across quarterback archetypes, from his work with Joe Burrow at college to Josh Allen in the NFL, gives him credibility both as a developer and as a coach capable of integrating a rookie signal player into an NFL-ready offense. Either route, coaching Tua to improved consistency or installing a new franchise quarterback, would benefit from Brady's quarterback acumen and offensive foundation. McDaniel fostered a player-first culture that many consider a strength. Critics argue, however, that the team lacks a certain edge or disciplined posture in high-stakes moments. Brady projects a more conventional, structured leadership style that could impose tougher standards while preserving offensive freedoms. Organizations frequently pivot stylistically after a plateauing coach, seeking a different tone to change outcomes. And Miami could follow that pattern if they determine a cultural tweak is necessary. While the scenario remains hypothetical, it's a plausible trajectory. If Miami stumbles out of 2025 and misses the playoffs again, ownership may opt for a reset. Given Brady's youth, proven offensive instincts, and demonstrated ability to rehabilitate his professional reputation, he would be a natural contender to take the Dolphins into a new era, potentially beginning in South Beach in 2026.
Changes in roster upheaval could accelerate Miami's search for quarterback solutions beyond their current commitment to Tagovailoa. QB speculation continues. A familiar dual-threat passer is emerging as a trade target to help revitalize the offense. Facing an early season slide and mounting scrutiny, Miami's primary weaknesses trace back to the quarterback spot. If the Dolphins truly look dysfunctional at 0-3, leadership will instinctively search for an immediate corrective move, and that often points to the most important position on the field. With Mike McDaniel's job sensitivity rising, a bold personal pivot could follow. One of the more plausible options is pursuing a young dual-threat passer who blends upside with a prior connection to the coaching staff, Trey Lance. The Dolphins' stumble out of the gate magnifies issues that were already under debate. The argument goes that Mike McDaniel needs a signal caller who can consistently manage the offense and sustain drives, attributes some evaluators think Tua Tagovailoa has not reliably provided. With the coach's status in flux, making a proactive trade could be framed as both a performance and a survival move. One speculative path envisions the Los Angeles Chargers moving Trey Lance to Miami. The Chargers, riding early season momentum with a 2-0 start and Justin Herbert established as their starter, could view Lance as an expendable asset. Trading him would allow Los Angeles to acquire draft capital or roster improvements that shore up other contention needs. If Lance's preseason performance is any indicator, his stock could be intriguing. In the exhibition period, he compiled 334 yards and 2 touchdowns, flashes that suggest improvement in his passing mechanics and decision-making. If those gains translate consistently, Lance becomes a legitimate trade target. Lance and McDaniel share a prior working relationship dating to their time with the San Francisco 49ers organization. That familiarity would theoretically ease a transition, enabling Lance to assimilate more quickly into play designs and terminology. His dual-threat skill set, the combination of mobility and arm strength, also aligns with the type of quarterback McDaniel has schemed around in the past. At 25, Lance presents a blend of youth and upside that makes him an appealing option for a team unwilling to settle for a veteran stopgap. His ability to create with his legs and extend plays could complement Miami's weapons, offering a different dimension that might re-energize an offense struggling to find consistent vertical production. While the scenario involving Lance is hypothetical and driven by performance imperatives, he represents a viable, familiar, and youthful option should the Dolphins decide to pursue a significant quarterback overhaul. Financial obligations, performance expectations, and strategic flexibility all intersect at a critical juncture that could determine the franchise's competitive window for years to come. Whether Miami navigates these challenges through calculated adjustments or dramatic overhauls will ultimately define their path forward in an increasingly competitive league landscape. The Dolphins find themselves navigating multiple franchise-defining decisions simultaneously, and we want to hear your perspective on each of these critical situations. Regarding Tyreek Hill's future, after his public comments about potentially leaving, do you believe the Dolphins should actively shop Hill, or should they work to repair the relationship? On potential coaching changes, is Mike McDaniel's job truly in jeopardy if the team starts 0-3, or should he get more time with this talented roster? If Miami does decide to move on from Tua, would trading for Trey Lance provide the dual threat element this offense has been missing, or should they look elsewhere for their next franchise quarterback? Let us know where you stand on these pivotal franchise decisions. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe. Join our community and get exclusive content every day. We always bring you everything happening in Miami. See you soon.